Who else?
It's a 6 members.
Oh, I forgot you. Yeah, well, we're still missing one more.
No, it,
Cameron Coast Guard.
Yeah. And Coast Guard, that's it? Oh, I missed you. So, okay, we're good. Numbers are good. So we've got, those two individuals, away with on leave. So, let's call this, Harbour Users, Advisory Committee meeting to order on 7/10 at 6:30 on 1. We have an agenda. Before we adopt the agenda, do I have any additions or deletions?
Just a comment on, well, I don't know if there's anything can be done about it. The item that I had hoped to get to last meeting, is the last item on the agenda under the business minutes for the laws. A couple of items before that, I think may generate a fair bit of, discussion. I just want to reiterate, I suppose, that there's some urgency, I think, to get this motion on the table for discussion. After deferring it last time.
You're referring to 7.1 North Harbor revenue generation, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know what people think of how much discussion is gonna be around the survey. And the Harbour report, and I can see both of those going on sometime.
So are you asking the committee to maybe move that item up on the agenda?
Well, if that might be considered by the people whose items those are, there's no urgency, I think, to either of those things as far as time urgency goes. There is some to North Harbor revenue, and I'm hoping there can be a decision. Should the decision be made to go ahead with this, it would be really beneficial to have it in effect for the cruising season coming up. So that by the time next summer comes around and council is considering the renewal of the contract with Harbour rates, we have that information to incorporate into that larger discussion.
So I guess Ken is asking to move this up on the agenda. That would be new business. New business would be moved up ahead of unfinished business. How does the committee feel about that? That's President.
Through the chair, I'm the one that put unfinished or the satisfaction survey on there, and there's nothing pressing. I was merely looking to see if we could get something started, like a smaller working group, or to address some of the things on there. So yeah, I'm fine with moving down.
And the author of the Powell River Harbors report, how does the author of that report feel?
Fine with it.
You're fine putting it,
I'm sure.
moving it down the agenda? Okay, so I guess we need a motion to move something else on the agenda.
Is that the way that works? Okay, I will move whatever needs to be moved.
So where would you advise that be moved to, Jessica?
I think the discussion was that the new business get moved ahead of unfinished business, so item 7 becomes item 6 and vice versa.
So, any other comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor? So be it. Thank you very much. So, let's move, call for adoption of the revised agenda. Would like to make that, or are there any other additions or deletions? Hearing none, of a mover. Moved by Jim, second by Rob. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor? We have an agenda. Thank you very much, and we move to the adoption of the minutes of the Harbour Users Advisory Committee meeting held on November 5th, 2025. Any comments, concerns? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to accept. Moved by Jesse, seconded by Fraser. Any comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. Unanimous. Boy, we're moving through the agenda here quickly tonight. And we go right to reports. And the number 1 item on the agenda is item 5.1, revised draft working group terms of reference. You have the report, revised agenda, and I just will say I am going to chair this meeting without saying too much because I want to hear directly from the committee members on this. And I think staff probably would appreciate me not getting involved in this discussion to any great extent. So having said that, I will just preface the comments by saying that staff has provided you with the new terms of reference based on input from the last meeting. And the key two items that we passed a motion on were bi-monthly meetings and the continuation of the 9 committee members for on an ongoing basis in the new term of reference. Those are the two key changes. Having said that, you all have a copy, and I think it's also in written form in your package. Going to open it up to discussion.
Do we want Peter to walk through it first, though?
Oh, that would be good. Let's get the report from Peter first.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Chair. You touched on some of the key points, incorporating the current members in the new working group, as well as going bi-monthly rather than quarterly meetings. It was also quite a bit of discussion about ensuring that there's some kind of a mechanism for resolution of any process issues. So that's been addressed through the ability of members of the working group to take any such process issues to the corporate officer to be dealt with if there's logjam and things that aren't working properly. And then I'll see if I can do something to mitigate that and resolve it. If I'm unable to do that, then I would refer that matter to the CAO for assistance in resolving it. And then going on from there, in terms of just the key things that are within the new draft terms of reference. The other aspect is that there is, and Vinnie last time was quite emphatic about ensuring that there was still a pipeline to council. And that is incorporated here in terms of the CAO bringing quarterly updates to the committee of the whole, based on the notes taken with the working group meetings. And ideas and things that come out of that. So council will, through the committee of the whole, be regularly updated on what the group is talking about and the ideas that are being proposed and discussed with staff. And if there's anything of substance that needs direction from council, the CAO can seek some direction from the committee of the whole if necessary to recommend to council that staff be directed to do something. So there are channels through which substantive issues, if they arise, can be addressed. So that is taken into account in this draft terms of reference. Other items just mainly deal with initially to begin with, we're just gonna start with a 1-year term and then up to 3 renewals of that. It is working group is not a committee of council, so it's not open to the public. And if anything, that probably enables the group to just roll up their sleeves and talk about what the ideas are and bandy about pros and cons of different things. So that's the idea here. And I'll stop talking and open it up.
Thanks, Peter. Anybody want to chime in at this point? Rachel?
The component of not having the public be able to attend. That feels like a fairly big thing for me, just in the sense of, how do people communicate to working group? Is there like a means or a channel to do so? It has been interesting to hear some of the people who showed up at the meetings to bring up their items at the end of the day. And have that dialogue, especially when it comes down to things that we've, seeing on the dock is one thing, but then another thing to have the people address those issues here. Been kind of eye-opening sometimes. There's been that people don't come with the most concise words, but other times there's been some really good information that's been passed through that avenue. Is there a way to have the public dialogue sort of maintained if they can't attend the meetings?
Here. Respond to that?
I would have to suggest that, the better avenue to, receive input from, other members of the public would be people to contact members of the working group if they so desire. This isn't a public forum, it's a working group. So that would be the avenue that people would have to use.
You, Gary?
Peter, thanks for listening to us and changing the proposal. I think that's what I'll talk about. Last couple of years, we haven't been very effective. And we haven't accomplished much. I think that the mechanism offers us a lot better alternative to get a dialogue going with staff where it's less threatening, more open for us to communicate back and forth and have more influence, because the issues we talk about are primarily issues that are staff issues on how they run the harbor. Also, some of the things we'd like to happen that are different, that might require changing bylaws, are going to require staff support. I don't think there's any world in which we're going to do an operational question that changes how the harbor operates without having staff support for it. That's not something that council reaches into. So I think this allows us a much better forum to have much more influence than we've done today. And so trying to stay with where we were is insane. Einstein said it, if you keep doing the thing the same way, expect the same results. So I think this provides us a new opportunity to go forward, to have a closer relationship with staff, and have more influence. So I think it's a good proposal. And thanks, Sundance and Peter, for working on this. Appreciate it.
Just one comment, Terry, you made, I want to clarify. When you said less threatening, I just want to make the comment, nobody has threatened anybody on any item at this table while I'm the chair. You might see it that
We
way.
definitely saw some things a couple last meeting.
There is nobody being threatened here. Let's be clear.
Threatening
This is
does not
dialogue.
mean that a threat was offered.
Committee, dialogue.
Threatening does not mean a threat was offered.
I'm just saying, that's
It
your
does not-
perception,
it
it
does
may
not-
not be others.
It does not mean that.
Okay.
Through the chair, I do kind of follow Terry's lead there a little bit. There's one thing that I am disappointed about within myself is that when I asked the change of the terms of reference as this group, I also thought it would have included you as either a counselor and or just a person being. This is our group, and this is a group that we put together. You were elected to chair our group, and I missed that when I tried to change that aspect of it. So I apologize for that. I don't think we've accomplished anything in the 2 years, and I think anybody at this table that can say that we have could really explain themselves, because I don't think we have done much of anything. I think this will be a better way of working with Cam and whoever the new wharfinger is going to be, to get things moving. And if it's not available to the public as in attending, is it available to the public online here? Or not at all?
No, it wouldn't be online.
Not, so it's not recorded, it's just,
Notes would be taken by the recording secretary and shared with the CAO to work into his quarterly updates. Sure.
thank you.
Richard, go ahead.
Just curious from staff, like, kind of trying to highlight what the group, the biggest components that haven't been working so far are. Cause I feel like we show up at meetings, we try and bring constructive ideas and things, and I feel that we haven't garnered a lot of traction in that time, and that's frustrating from Harbour Advisory Committee's perspective. I think it's hard to feel that, things aren't working. Is it us that's not working? Because I really like to hear sort of how we included in that process and how it's not working. To develop like new terms that do work and what it's gonna change in that process, because there is a certain point, I feel like show up and bring ideas and try to make progress, and it feels slow. And I don't know if this is normal procedure, if this is, not being heard, this is us showing up in the wrong way or proposing things in the wrong way, because I'm really passionate about this group, I'm passionate about the harbors, and I would love to see, positive change, no matter how that comes. But I'm kind of curious how this doesn't work in that, what the biggest issues are that don't work in the current form, and how it would most be improved in this revised terms of reference.
Like to pick up on Tracy's,
Do you want to answer it first?
Sorry, Sundance, go right ahead, Nick.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were pointing at me.
I am going,
Okay. A big thing is the structure, right? Which we talked about, I think, ad nauseum at the last meeting about not having direction to council, to staff, and working with staff moving forward. So I think that's the biggest one that will make the big difference. And not having it open and having the Warpinger attend. So like a few different sort of operational elements of it combined would make it, I think, more positive.
follow up.
When things go to council, is it mostly based on the motions that we send? Or is it through other things passed through council as well that I'm not aware of, just in the sense of, is it possible to have some form of the existing setup with sort of an idea that things won't get passed to council, to burn time, to require reports, to require staff time, to sort of make this more concise and more efficient without sort of turning this into working group?
I'm not too sure what you're asking, actually.
Just to clarify, I think you're asking that if the group working with staff puts a motion forward that you're going to, and they ask you to take it to council, will that be part of the process or not?
I would say that no. I would say that there's an opportunity if the working group wasn't working, that if they didn't feel it was happening, they could probably go to council on their own outside of it, and or the discussion would take place as part of the update to council. So there'd be an acknowledgement that it was brought up, but staff didn't think it was a good idea. So the reporting will take place, just not through motions specifically, I would say.
Yeah, because just talking in a few small meetings and things, those are the most productive sort of interactions I felt I've had on this committee in a long time. And that was what I imagine would a working group would feel a lot like, because it's a really positive way to go about things. It seems to be a lot more candid, a lot more sort of straightforward, and that's where it feels like real traction can be achieved. The component of sending things to council always to me feels like that sort of smoking gun. If we don't feel as a collective that we're being heard, that it gives us the ability to send things up to come down. And I think that, the thought of that doesn't feel good when it's sort of like, well, I'm gonna go tell you what to do. I understand that that's not, that never feels nice. But it feels like sort of a safety net for us as a group when we put our time into this, and then there isn't traction in the future. We're at the stage of transition period to figure out how to make this work. Is there any way to strike sort of an agreement to not send things to council that way and waste time, to have this sort of done more potentially informally, see how things garner traction in the future without having to change this and sort of take away the tool to us that feels like the ability to send things to council, sort of the idea to not use it without dialogue, that things are moving along. If things are moving along, feels nice to know that and not have to use that tool. But in another sense, with the working group, that ability to send things to council must go through staff, and then for us to show the delegation to show council and present these items. Just another step of organization that needs to take place in our group. Do have a good idea, if it's not being heard, how to move that forward.
Thank you, Richard. Then you're next.
Thanks. Well, I do agree with a couple of things I've heard. I don't think there's anybody here who thinks this committee has been effective. We don't know why it hasn't been effective. I mean, we all have some ideas. There may be some common ideas. I think it may depend on which side of the table you're on, whether you're employed by the city or whether you're here supposedly representing Harbour users. I have my thoughts on why it hasn't been effective. I'm sure that since coming to the city, Sundance has talked to staff about this committee and very fast views on why it's ineffective. Disappointed that you never came to the people on the committee, and that's why we think it hasn't been effective.
You don't think I've done that?
I certainly don't.
You don't think these meetings have been an avenue to have that conversation with the last? You mean, well, this is the venue, right?
Anyway, Ashton answered. No, I don't.
Okay.
And the conversation would have been best held in privacy in your office so people can be candid, etc.
What I can say about that is that I've had other committee members approach me to have candid conversations.
That's fine. You haven't reached out to the committee at large and asked for any input. I don't want to debate it with it's water under the bridge at this point. We'll see where we go next. I'm disappointed it happened in a semi-official way.
You don't want to debate, but you want to say that you're disappointed, and I don't agree with what you're saying. Okay, that's important for you.
Yeah. The other thing is, based at least on my understanding, my beliefs as to why this committee hasn't been effective. Well, first, why haven't we as a committee tried to address that? That's one question. But also, I don't see anything in the proposed terms of reference that addresses any cause of committee's dysfunction. So I would not be optimistic. I don't see where the people who are here talking to city officials representing Harbour users are gaining anything. What we are giving up is all leverage we have to try to initiate change. We serve at your pleasure. Anything that goes to council goes through you. If there's any impasse at the committee, it's resolved by staff. Staff is from start to finish entirely in control of this process. I also think, and this is in part getting to a question that Terry asked, actually a question that you asked at the last meeting. We need to remember how this committee came into existence in the first place. This committee is here because there's a huge impasse, a huge difference of opinion on a fundamental issue between a position recommended to council by staff and a position held by Harbour users based on what they thought was fair and viable and reasonable. Council mitigated that dispute as it should and reached a compromise. And I think everybody, at least on the Harbour user side of the table, thought was a reasonable outcome. Part of that discussion was that council would appoint a committee to represent Harbour users. I think it was very deliberate in council's part that they set this committee up to be reporting to council in a fashion, not to staff. If there are major disagreements in the future between staff and Harbour users, I think council's hope was that they could be largely resolved at the committee stage. And if not, it would be put to council so that council, the people who are accountable to Harbour users and to all the voters, can decide on the best outcome. I also want to note that this committee came about in large part because well over 100 voters packed council chambers on more than one occasion, and part of their I guess demand, for a lot, they'd rather call it a softer word, but I'll call it demand. A key part of that was that council appointed committee of Harbour users. And council agreed to that, and that news was very, very well received. I don't think that we have a mandate. This committee came about because a lot of Harbour users devoted their time and effort to come down here and persuade council that it was a good idea. I don't think the 9 of us sitting here have a mandate to undo that. I sure wouldn't want to go to Harbour Users and say, yeah, well, we decided we aren't doing much good, so we decided to scrap the committee. I'll leave it at that.
You know, you bring up a valid point, because where I am between a rock and a hard place right now is I have my committee members that I'm working closely with to try to bring about change. And at the same time, the mandate was passed down by council. We represent council still at this point. And I think what we need before we do adopt anything here is we need to have a dialogue with our present council. They know why they struck this committee, as Ken's pointed out. And are we overriding the motion that they passed to form this committee to deal with certain items? I'm not sure. Sundance, can you just shed a little light on where we are in procedure?
You know, if this committee thinks that they're amenable to looking at disbanding in a new terms of reference, coming back as a working group, and it came forward, council would look at it. If this committee doesn't think that that's a good idea and doesn't want to bring that forward, and staff bring that forward because we think that it should change, we could bring it forward. At the end of the day, council will get to make a decision one way or the other, what to do with the committee moving forward. So ultimately, it is the council's decision, but recommendations are going to come probably one way or the other.
Okay,
And that's the way it ought to be.
Ready to go ahead.
It feels a little bit hostile of that language of like, if it doesn't change, we're gonna make it change, and I've
Already
already,
make a change.
yeah, and I worry about that a little bit, because there's a component from my side which feels a little bit hurtful, which is like, almost like we haven't been showing up and trying to do our best at this stage, it's, no, something's not working. And looking forward as to the communication, the interactions, potential for working outside of this avenue to make it better isn't an option. That's a thing that I'm not crazy about. Why can this not work with the idea that things get done in a more informal fashion, with these meetings being more focused outside of that? So when we come here, we're as concise as we can be, we have dialogue back and forth, and there isn't a need to change the existing terms of reference, or necessarily at the same time send things to council, because things can be resolved outside of this formality. Can things be improved without having to go out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak?
I would say, and I think that a lot of this happened before I came here, but human resources issues have come up at this committee, and having a structure with an open format meeting committee, which could unfortunately get into closed session things without control mechanism in place, is a real problem. And what we have is a solution. And if I think the solution works, I don't think that it won't work. And the solution is to keep the same members, keep the same dialogue, just keep communication to council, but make it a working group. And so we're not trying to stop all this or take a process that doesn't work and try to make a hybrid version of it that is still going to be problematic. We're trying to create one that solves the problem, which is to eliminate it from being an open meeting, but leave it as a working group, have the same committee members, and have the ability for the information to make its way to council. So again, there's a solution that we're presenting. If this group decides that it's not what they want, it doesn't make the problem go away. And so to your point, it's not meant to be threatening, it's a problem, we're trying to solve it. If it doesn't work from this committee, staff are still going to try to solve the problem, and we'll talk to council outside of this structure about it. So it's just a reality, we got to solve the problem. This is one way to do it, we think it's a good way. If the committee doesn't agree and doesn't want to do it, that's fine, it doesn't make the problem go away. We're going to try to deal with it.
Why is the openness of these meetings problematic?
Wait, Ken. Thanks for that input. Fraser, you have a follow-up thought?
Just like when we talk about the problem, and I'm curious, because to me, it seems like when you describe HR issues as potentially a problem, or the direction from council that it comes from the backside, which is not the ideal way to achieve things, is also a problem. Outside of that, is there more problems? Because like, it sounds like there's big problems, but these are things that as far as I can tell are relatively isolated. Is there, am I missing something about there being a big problem? Because the thing that I worry about is, big problem is us. Like, we are a big problem in staff's side. And that's never been my intention of attending these meetings.
I'm not sure where you get that from. I mean, it includes in the new term of reference to include all the same members that are in there now, right? So.
It's just the way we show up in this format that is the problem. But when you describe the problem, what is specific to that? What is the cause of what's happening here? Because is it an HR conflict that comes in? Is it, you know, the types of things?
Potentially, I think it's how the conversations take place and the recognition of what should be in open and what should be in closed, and the very nature of having an honest conversation and a working group type conversation in a format where typically it would be more structured, and that's how it works in municipal world, where you get the closed session ones where you get into stuff and the open session. And again, this is my understanding from talking from staff, that things have sort of gone a bit helter-skelter here. And again, staff have the presentation of what you think the solution is on here. If the committee in their wisdom decides they don't want to move forward with it, it's fine. I don't think it eliminates the problem. And again, I tried to reiterate it a couple times. I don't know how we could avoid that and still make it a positive working group experience when it's open.
Jen, you had your hand up.
I would like to think we could, and I do understand where you're coming from when committees brought up HR issues, for example. And I think we can agree, and I think the chair can agree that those sorts of discussions will be off limits. But rather than walk away from the whole thing, why not fix what we have rather than I frankly, other than being able to have discussions that are perhaps more candid because you're behind closed doors and you're not bound by Robert's rules, which we never will get here to anyway. But I just don't see where this new format offers any benefit, and I do see from Harbour Users' perspective how it's problematic. I think staff has, and I believe this to be one of the problems. This committee was intended, I think, to be a conduit to council, but staff has set them up as a gatekeeper to council. That's one of the problems. Is it really limited the the output of this committee.
It's interesting, the terminology gatekeeper, which is fine, but that's what staff actually is. You know, in the sense of making sure the stuff that comes there is put in the right format, making sure that it meets what is required in terms of going to open versus closed.
Unilaterally deferring things, so they never go to council.
And I
substantially modify
I
things.
agree with that 100%. And so what you're talking about is different than the role that I envision what should be moving forward there. But again, it still comes back to the structure of the open committee. I think what this terms of reference, as Peter read it out, should allow this group to make recommendations through staff and start working on stuff and moving it forward. And I mean, we can get into your recommendation moving forward as the next part of the conversation, but it's just going to be an example of why this committee doesn't work once we get there.
I'd like to fix what we have here.
When that's what we're doing.
Well, we're not, we're very, very substantially modifying.
Raise your hand. Who else? Carrie?
Well, Ken, your example really shows that we don't need this foolish idea that we can force something to council without. In that, in fact, when the range that was too large, delegations went to council, brought the issue up and went forward. We don't need this mechanism that you think somehow gives you some more authority. We don't need it in this. The working group allows us to private to communicate what we think, and allows us to hear from staff what's going on in the harbor, and allows us to provide our input. That's where the value is. It allows us to communicate to other people what's going on. This idea that somehow we get to send a magical motion to council that's going to cause them to tell staff to do something I don't want to do, it's just not going to happen in this world.
That's exactly how this committee was established.
No, 100 people went to council and raised the issue, not a committee voting it.
And council appointed this committee to try to prevent that.
Well, I think this will work.
Manage that.
This will work better for us to communicate. It provides a place where they start thinking about repricing the harbor, it provides some people to talk to and say, what's this gonna mean? Well, we can tell them what it means then. Because we can say, this is what it means if you try 17% 3 years in a row. This is a problem. It's unfair. You're going to get a lot of pushback. It allows us that mechanism to communicate, and it's a private place where we can have an honest dialogue, not a public place where we've got people posturing.
Well, that's your interpretation of it. I see it.
I think we're sort of ready to call the question. There is a motion that is on the table. We bring it on, but I think we're ready to call the question. We're
I've
not,
got a couple more hands up here.
we're not gonna change it.
Fraser, you've had it multiple times. I'm gonna go to the people that haven't had a chance yet. We're gonna go with, I saw Sasha's hand first and then Jim.
You're looking over this. I have a question for you.
Sorry, just let me write Jim's name down here. Okay, go right ahead.
Would you like to remain as chair of this committee?
That's up to the committee's decision, not mine. I have enjoyed my time working with this group. I can tell you that because of all the expertise that's been brought to the table. I disagree with the comment made earlier today, and I'll tell you why. Somebody said we haven't made any progress. I don't know who it was. I think we made great progress because the dialogue has started. People are listening. And I have a feeling we're just about at a breakthrough point when we go through the report. Because in terms of that report, I think there's a lot of great work that's pinpointed a number of not issues, but items that can be dealt with in a timely manner. And I would really like to see the committee take that report forward, itemize those issues, put timelines on them and priorities so that you can dialogue with 1 or 2 or 3 of those at your next meeting. Staff understands what you want to do. They can take it away, work on it and actually get things done. Because right now, when we have a meeting and we bring this report forward, there's 18 items on it. Well, what are we going to do? That's where the honing in of what needs to be done, needs to be discussed, and staff has to take ownership of your asks. That's the way I see progress being made. In terms of the survey that was done, that also helps you pinpoint your priorities from all of the users out there that are down at that harbor. The two can be combined to give you a roadmap. So to say that we haven't done anything, just simple thing like having those ladders cleaned, even though they're not replaced yet, is a step forward. Let's not lose sight of that. Okay, staff is trying. It's been trying times here at the city. And as I've said in numerous council meetings, we're living in a different time post-COVID. And it's taken time for people and the city to get their feet back together and interact together. That's where we are in reality in this city. So to say that you have not accomplished anything, I disagree totally. You have accomplished a great deal simply by being here and voicing your concerns and bringing issues forward. So let's never lose sight of the great work that you're doing. And I compliment you. And whatever direction the committee goes, I will abide by whether I'm involved or not, because I will be involved. If I'm not on the meetings, I'll be involved in hearing the reports that come forward from through Sundance Council. So it's up to the committee to make the decision which direction you want to go. But on the dialogue, just to help you tonight, what I would say is most of the issues that came forward in the report are harbor operational issues. That should be the focus of the working group. Deal with the report, the feedback from the survey, and put those operational issues on a piece of paper, prioritized with timelines, what needs to be done. So we have a roadmap. That makes it simple for everyone. And as far as the bigger picture as to why this committee was struck, that was council reacting to the massive amount of interest in our harbor from the users themselves. So that is also coming straight from council. They would like to hear about our harbor. I know I would. And they would like to see some progress. So if you decide to go down the working group road, we will get the reports. But at the same time, Sundance will be bringing some type of message to council in whatever direction you decide, so that they are involved. Because I'm in a hot spot right now, because right now, I don't even know if they are aware of the new terms of reference, because it hasn't been breached in the council. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim, you're next.
Okay, I think at the end of the day, we have to,
Are you finished?
No, I got one.
Okay, sorry, stop.
I'd like to point out that to date, I don't know, what have we been here, 18 months-ish, something like that? We've all come and sat in this chamber, not in a single meeting as a working group and sat at this table. That's your city's frontline staff to all of the things that we talk about on a regular. I think that would make a huge difference to how this group operates, having direct communication with your operations team.
That's why we built it into the new terms of reference.
Why can't it happen with the current one?
Again, because it's an open public meeting, which doesn't work well for human resources type situations.
Can you elaborate?
Having Jen here say, or whoever the new Warfinger is, has HR.
Hold on, yeah, just let Sundance think about it for a second.
Well,
To clarify.
yeah, again, Jen doesn't report to this committee, right?
But not everyone
Of course not. No, no, she reports to Cam, who reports to me, and then I report to council. But having someone come into this environment when it's all being filmed and being part of an open committee and then trying to get into operational matters is just, it's not a good structure. And this is why we've talked about changing it and making it into a working group. And that's why we put the Warfinger in the working group situation, because we agree. We think that for operational matters, having operational staff participate is good. And so the whole goal of this is to actually improve things, right? And to make it better and to include the people that can affect the change. And that's why this setup with this working group includes the chair, who is the manager of transportation, City of Warfinger, and someone to help with the minutes, as well as the work. Sit down and get the work, figure out, have honest conversations, do it in a forum that allows it to happen. So
I'm still at a bit of a loss as to
as to why.
why the working group can't just sit at this table and have a discussion.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think I've talked about it, like this group doesn't give direction, but it's an operational type meeting, and so it's awkwardly put together, and so it would lead to conversations that shouldn't take place in an open session, and that's why I think the working group doesn't attend. But I don't know, Pam, can you elaborate on that further?
Not very well.
Okay, that's fine, and we don't need to, but I mean, the point being is we're trying to address what you're talking about, which is having the Warfinger attend would be positive for the group moving forward. So we're trying to create a structure that allows for it. So again, this is us trying to improve.
The only thing I'm gonna say, because I'm not saying anything, I want, good, this is your deal. This proposal would allow us to do exactly what you're saying. That's it in a nutshell. This doesn't allow that. That's all we can say.
I still fail to understand why. That's
And I absolutely get
So
that, and I know we're sounding cryptic. It's just reality.
I'm just gonna add one thing, because as I voiced earlier, having the Warfinger here, having Cam here, talking about operational issues, that's what you want. You want to get things done, you got a direct line. That's positive in my estimation. So Sundance, I'm gonna ask you this question in terms of the committee, terms of reference. Can something be built in so that this group, if it's a financial or I don't know, whatever else you want to throw in, financial was mentioned, insurance was another. If any of those items are brought forward, from council, does this group have the authority, will they have the authority to approach you to send a motion directly to council and if they're concerned? I think that would do away with a lot of the problems the committee's dealing with at the moment. Like how do you know council when they know why this committee was set up?
You know, I'm having a hard time completely understanding it unless it was like super time sensitive in regards to something. So let's take Ken's example from the agenda about wanting to come up with another working group and to get into stuff and then have something that's written. Sorry, I'm just trying to talk actually right now.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, okay,
One at a
great.
time, please.
And so if we were to do something like that, I think that if we were to sit down as a working group and just sort of talk about it, we could bring forward staff reports to council that wouldn't have to come as a recommendation. But if we were like, actually, no, that's probably not a great idea. We don't want to go in that one. There's nothing that could stop Ken or other members of the committee from writing a letter to mayor and council or asking to be a delegation to come and present outside of that as well. So it doesn't stop all that from happening. What it does is it gives this group and people on it the first chance to work with frontline staff to get their message across, to get it to go through staff to council.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that comment. We have a speaking order. Jim's next. And Rob, did you have your hand up? No, because Ken's waiting also. So go ahead, Jim. You got your point?
Yeah.
Okay, Ken and then Fraser.
I'm really not following why this, whatever it is, needs confidentiality or needs to operate behind closed doors to be effective. That seems to be the primary need that you've articulated, as a part of these new terms of reference. I just don't get. As far as you say that the working group or anybody, that don't need to be sitting on a working group to go to council and ask, or to go to staff and ask for an opportunity to talk to council. Whatever it is. Delegation to council has a total of 5 minutes. Plus another 5 minutes for council questions, etc. Should they have any? It's hardly the same thing. Council struck this committee with the terms of reference as they're written so that motions passed at this committee or recommendations passed at this committee would be presented to council with a staff report and all the deliberation to allow council to make an informed decision. Staff can, in the report to council, staff can support it or staff can oppose it. That's not what really matters. Council has the information to make an informed decision, and it's council that's accountable. You brought up my example here. I know the North Harbour bylaw currently allows transient moorage in the North Harbour, so we don't really have to go to council to implement this if everybody thinks that's a good idea. But I think should staff not support it, I think it's a decision council should make because it's going to be very relevant to discussions when we talk about moorage fee renewal in the summer of 2026.
Thank you, Ken. Next up, we have Fraser. And followed by Sarah.
New terms are adopted, but things aren't flowing properly. Build a group that want to get our message across. We need to show up to a council meeting as a delegation. I haven't shown up as a delegation before, so I'm just curious, how do you get approved for delegation via city staff approval?
Yeah, one delegation per council meeting,
One delegation per council meeting.
5 minutes.
So it could be a very slow, long process to get, or long wait list for getting in.
I don't know what it's been historically through the chair, but lately we haven't had very many delegations, but perhaps Jessica can speak to that.
Yeah, through the chair. So there are 3 delegations allowed at committee of the whole, which is also a forum for the public to speak. So 3 at committee of the whole, 1 at council. And I would say we haven't had any since beginning of November. So it's not, there's no, I'm not seeing a wait list.
Yeah, okay, yeah, my concern is I like really appreciate the olive branch, which I feel to me is really important of potential having the worker and working group. That feels like a really good step. My concern, of course, is in relation to council, but the ability to send things, delegation if possible. My concern would be that if for some reason there was a disagreement between staff, the group, that it would be hard to get and show up the delegation to council.
We don't, we use the term gatekeep, again, we're a buffer between council, so we'd make sure there's no reason why if you wanted to come or someone from the community wanted to come and make a delegation to council about something like this, that it wouldn't just automatically be approved. There's a form to fill out, book you in, you've got 5 minutes, you present your information, and that's it. It's not like if we don't like what you're gonna say, we're saying, no, that's not the role. we play.
Okay, yeah. I'm not familiar.
Yeah.
Through the chair, also, there's, in our procedure bylaw, there's like a there's set reasons why we would decline a delegation. So as long as you're not in those reasons, we don't get to just arbitrarily decline you. So there's checks and balances. Very good. Okay.
We have a motion on the table. I'd like to move to remove it from the table and put it back in front of the group.
So I don't think we do have a motion on the table. But yeah,
We, minutes say we did it.
Well, it's carries on in the last meeting.
But I can make a new motion.
I think the new motion would be, as per the recommendation, would be best.
Sure, I would like to move that we adopt the proposed terms of reference.
The new.
That we support the report for decision here.
So are you recommending the moving of the actual motion in the agenda? Because it's a bit different. That's why I'm asking. It's on the front page.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna read that aloud so everybody's got it. Recommendation pursuant to the report of the corporate officer dated December 10, 2025, entitled Supplemental Report, Restructure of Harbour Users Advisory Committee to Community Harbour Users Working Group, that the committee recommend that, 1, the revised draft terms of reference for proposed Community Harbour Users Working Group attached as Appendix A be endorsed. 2, outstanding items from the Harbour Users Advisory Committee be referred to the Community Harbour Users Working Group. And 3, council dissolve the Harbour Users Advisory Committee. So that is the motion before you. Do I hear any further questions or comments?
I just want to make sure that many people understand what we are doing is we are the people who are entrusted to represent harbor users on this committee, a hard-won committee, are now asking council to dissolve the committee. So I make sure it's clear on that.
Rob?
I think we still have our voice. I really do. Anybody that uses the harbors, whether it be Mr. Southcott, Mr. Hassett, it doesn't really matter. They can come to you. Can you please bring this up at your next meeting? There's nothing stopping them. Okay? When we talk with Cam being the operations manager and whoever the ward manager is, if it's Jen, whoever it is, we have the option to talk about things and get things done. Right now, it goes from us to staff, to council, back to staff, back to us. We know how that chain already works because we've been through it. It doesn't get the ball rolling fast enough. We can get picnic tables. We could not get picnic tables over there because of the chain of command, the way it went. Now we can go to Cam and say, hey, Cam, somebody brought up to us and we'd like to see picnic tables over there. And hopefully it can happen. But the way it's been operating right now, it doesn't happen. It doesn't work. We don't know why. They're telling us what they think of why it's not working. I feel this will work best. I really do. I don't think it's taking any clout away from us. We can still get together as a group and work on things and hash things out and discuss things. It's not stopping us from doing that. It's not.
Thank you, Rob. I don't see any other hands in the air here. So we will call the question.
we will have a second.
Oh, that's right. We need a seconder.
I'll second.
Second by Rob. So the motion is now on the floor. No further comments? Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion is defeated 4-3.
All right.
Now, where does that leave us?
We're moving forward with the next item on the agenda. Okay, thank you very much.
So we now have moved up 7.1 on to tonight's agenda. And that reads, bring my screen back up. North Harbour revenue generation, Mr. Kolba. Recommendation that the committee recommends that council direct staff to recommend to use North Harbour slips temporarily vacated by their annual occupants for transient merge and establish a working group comprised of relevant city staff and members of the Harbour Users Advisory Committee to prepare this report. Ken, want to speak to it?
Yeah, thank you. So there is a short report attached to the agenda. I hope you've all had a chance to read it. Just want to predicate going through it very briefly with a couple of comments. One is that this recommendation, first of all, is predicated on an understanding that increased harbor revenue from federal mortgage will help to moderate mortgage fee increases in the future. I think looking at the survey results, we'll get to that later tonight. Looking at those, I think is perhaps the single most issue of concern to harbor users is the viability of our harbors, the viability and affordability of our harbors. So there's a brief recap here. The statistics under the second bullet are actually gleaned from the report that TOR presented to this group in fall of 2024, the number of vessels and how many lights, et cetera. So those numbers are probably a bit crude, but they're a good representation of what actually happens. I think the bigger issue here is that vastly more boats pass by Powell River without stopping than those that do. Increased, I'm going to skip down to benefits. Increased capacity will support increased mortgage revenues. I think it's important to note that this is new money coming into Powell River. It's not just raising mortgage fees, which just moves but money already here from one pocket to another pocket. It'll bring new money into town, new money for the city, new money for marine service providers and all the re-provisioning type businesses. I also think that assigned secure merge space is going to be a lot more conducive to longer stays. That people coming here, they got a secure slip. They don't need to worry about somebody being wrapped into them when they get back to the boat or whatever it is. They may spend a few days in town instead of an average of a day and a half. And they can also, as you know, here backstop. I think this is critical too. I mean, I'm not aware of any marketing of our harbors done by the city. I don't know if tourism, if that tourism does anything at all. I'm certain that I've come across any. And whether in Powell River or in other places, and among other building communities I've spent time. But reservable secure mortgage, I think, can backstop some marketing to try to turn Powell River into a destination. Perhaps you're on their summer festivals or any other event. But this is a hell of a nice place to visit, and we can make that work for us. How it work? I think what's here is all pretty clear. I just want to say that I suspect there's going to be questions about what this might mean for summer staff. I don't know that it would mean a lot, to be honest. I think during peak hours, there's three people on duty. And if these statistics, again, the TOR gave to us just about a year ago, are accurate, we have something around 20 boats arriving a day. So that doesn't, it's in and of itself, and I know there's a lot of other work those guys do, but in and of itself, assisting 20 boats coming and going, I don't think takes 24 staff hours. So I didn't mean for that to sound perhaps a bit snide, whatever, it wasn't meant like that. But I just want to say that I think, and especially as we ease into the cruising season, we can see how things work and see as it rolls out whether or not it's going to have any implications for staff. I also think that work in the North Harbour will be a lot less labor intensive, let's say, than work under the conditions in South and Westview Harbour. I would anticipate that should the decision be made to go ahead with this, it would be rolled out with well, some of the very little work needs to be done. We need to put slip numbers at the end of each dock on docks A through D. And it would then be rolled out by a letter to all people who have moorage on A through D, explaining what's happening and why, and what the implications are for each of them. I don't see security as being a concern. More people in the harbors, more traffic on the docks. So the type we're talking is generally a good thing, not a negative thing. The revenue share here, I mentioned 50%. I know that's a number that's used at other arenas where I personally have experienced this. But there's nothing magical about 50. The harbor users would have to get some of that revenue. It's only harbor users on docks A through D that are actually participating in this subletting their slips in effect on a temporary basis to transients. Whereas everybody else in North Harbour and indeed mortgage rate increases would ripple through South and Westview. So everybody else using a harvest period would be benefiting from the participation of both on docks A through D. And I think I'll leave it there. Well, as I mentioned earlier, but I should say too, the North Harbour bylaw does permit transient moorage. So even though this is presented as a recommendation to the council, with staff's support, it doesn't have to.
Thank you for that presentation. Terry?
Thanks, Ken. Couple. We'd have to assume for it to generate money that in fact we're either turning away people now that are coming, or in some way this is going to bring more boats in. Because if it just displaces boats from South Harbour into North Harbour, then in fact the city would get less money. So, and if I understand that we in fact don't turn boats away.
Well, definitely.
Hold on, we got hand cans going up.
I just heard that we don't.
Got Sasha, and then Jim, and then Fraser, and then Jesse, and then Rob. Over it.
We most certainly turn boats away during busy season. There's times when South Harbor, they just say we're full and that's it. We definitely increase moorage space. I think, that aside, I think this is a perfect example of what we've been discussing earlier, where we're making a motion here to tell council, to tell staff. I don't think we need to do that. We have staff here at the table. They're here, they're sitting, they're right here. We can just ask them, does this work? Does this make any sense to you guys?
As drafted? No, but the concept, yes. To have the conversation, putting timelines in that doesn't even ask what our workload is and.
Oh, no, exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
But again, this doesn't work as presented, no.
No, but does the idea work? Does the idea of using North Harbor for transient moorage, does that work?
I would say it might, certainly it might, can. I think there's some concern. One of my first things is I'm not convinced that the majority of people in North Harbour want to have transit coming in and out, so I think that's a big thing to consider.
Yeah. I didn't see it happens now.
Yeah, no, it can, for sure, but I'm just saying as far as, you know, hey, you know, this is sort of open season in a way, and almost the, hey, you're obliged to tell us when you're not there, so that we're taking your space. Some people might not like that.
And that's why I'm asking
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
because you're sitting here.
I thought, I mean, I agree that I think we can enhance, invite, suggest, advertise more that the option for subletting, right? I don't think we have done a good job with that, with putting it out there, that it's a possibility.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about, revenue going back to the people subletting, I'm not gonna comment on that one. I would want to keep it around a whole bunch more. So I see holes in it, but
So do I.
yeah, but you know what? I'm not saying no. That was started.
If you have a speaking list, thank you, Kim, Jim, and then President.
It would certainly be possible for the contract holder, if somebody.
It's not what it says. But like I was saying, as written, so maybe.
But it probably, it is an option anyway, right? But if you're gonna pull five boats, that will potentially have to go to the South Harbor, into the North Harbor, it creates a vacancy in the south. So it's a win-win in both situations. Yeah, but I think it merits a trial period for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
And Meryl's what?
A trial period, like, let's give it a run for a year, see how it goes.
My other comment, and again, we wouldn't know really the offset of, staff hours, how much work is it actually gonna take? Maybe not that much.
That's for a trial period, that becomes important.
Granted, totally get that.
Yeah.
My big concern is the security piece and the fobs and all that stuff, and I think some people are not gonna love that.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
I did talk to North Harbor users, like I've been mentioning this, since I think our very early meetings. This is the first time I put it forward as a serious proposal. But I have made a point of two things. One is looking around when I'm on ski dock, so when I'm down there in summertime. One is looking around to see how many slips are empty, and there's a lot. The other is I've talked to other boys in North Harbor, and I said, well, what do you think of this? On the understanding that by generating more money from North Harbor from transients, we're easing some of the pressure there might otherwise be on mortgage fees. And they say on that understanding, I'm for it. That's everybody I talked to except one. The one person who wasn't for it, his only objection was that we don't require transients to have food groups. I don't follow his logic, but that was his logic. So the food group, I mean, this is a story. I mean, nothing is I think last.
Thank you, Ken. Fraser, and then Jesse.
Just got himself a spot in North, 5 years, really happy about it. And if I was out on a 2-week vacation, I worked in other marinas to watch, you go on the Gibson's Marina and you're given a slip number assignment, and that person, whether they're gone, whatever it is, they're not cut and dry in the sense that it's in a just a designated spot, but it is sometimes a little hard to get into. They kind of warn you over the radio. It's like a straight, they give you good instructions. They're not there to catch your line. It's all on you. So it is kind of self-serve in that way. It doesn't mean dock staff to be on somebody on the radio, but they're on the radio anyways. But you don't have to be there to catch people's lines. From my standpoint, I would rather see the preservation of the rates of harbor rates for the local users be a priority, and have my spot when I'm not in it as not my prerogative, have it be used. Someone can come tie up, they're using my spot. In theory, I'm paying full and you guys are also getting double for those days that someone's in it. I'm okay with that. If that's gonna help offset rising costs and everything over time, then I'm for that as a harbor user in the north. There is a component of, bringing in the fact of what would it take for there's extra staff required to organize the system. And, it is sort of addressed in the report to council regarding and some sort of form of online payment service that highlight that area where you don't need staff to collect payment and they can be given a slip assignment. Log into the powellriver.ca website, click on Marina Pay, you're gonna get, your receipt and then all of your information in an email that ends up coming to, there's two things that happen where Ken highlights that thousands of boats pass by our harbor. We only have the opportunity to make a good first impression once. And so that giving people the option, if you can handle a higher capacity of transient boats, in summer we do turn people away. So the ability to bring those people in winter to move people on a short-term sublet, but I think, I'm not sure if the sublet terms now are for durations or if it can be done on like a shorter term, by about 2 weeks. Can somebody be in the spot for 2 weeks? But that right there would essentially be double revenue on a spot and then still either do one of two things. Provide more room off of the stormy docks, dock 10 and 11 in the south, so someone's not riding out, potentially damaging their boat at the end there. They're in a safer harbor that's more protected from the weather. They are taking full payment. You guys would be collecting full payment at transient rate. I would still be paying my monthly if I wasn't in the spot, and I feel that it should be the decision of the city staff to say, we haven't seen a boat in here for a week. We're gonna put a boat in there, and you let us know when you're coming back. Because at most other harbors, that's what takes place. If you're away for a period of time, you fall into the transient schedule. And then at that stage, you know, it's a win-win for you guys because that's increased revenue and it's paired with an online payment form, something to reduce manpower, but to increase revenue. I see it as like a really big opportunity for revenue growth. And then we can accommodate more people passing by. They get a better first impression instead of being turned away from a place that has an airport. We've got, you know, summertime, there's an aerodrome and an airport. We've got our ability to replenish your supplies here. We've got a fuel dock, we've got marine traders. We have these places, marine service providers. I think we can do a really good job of upping our game and improving our impression for voters from the coast.
So just I'm going to ask you one question. In the South Harbor, when it's very busy in the summer, there's a number of boats worked up, correct? 5, 6, 7 deep. So one of our Workinger or one of our summer staff could go down there, approach those individuals and say, would you like to move to a separate spot? You have to pay a little bit more, but you're going to be a lot better without being crowded here.
Yeah,
That's a way to directly fill those slots, double your income and make more room for transit. So that's good. That's great. So thank you for that. And Jesse, you're next.
Session, things are covered, so.
Okay. Rob, go right ahead.
The last 4 years I've been in the harbor 7 days a week, May through September. This already happens. I've seen it numerous times where sea dock's been empty and you'll get a boat in there and it happens to be a boat that I want to go look at and walk over and they go, hey guys, you know, you start talking to people, where you from? Oh, I'm from Seattle. There was no room in the south. They told me to come here. It already happened. Now, whether the money that is generated from that goes 50-50 as it, I think it's the way it's written, if it's a sublet, but on a short sublet, I don't think anything goes to the slip holder. I think it all goes to the city. But it happens. If you went away for a week, Ken, and this year you were gone for a week or two, did you go and let the Workinger know that you were gone?
Right.
So if you would have done that,
There was no reason to.
but if you would have done that, your slip is already available. This process is already there. It's right in there. So it's gonna still be reliant on the slip holder to go and tell the Workinger. Unless the Workinger says, well, you know, Mr. Kolba's been gone for 3 days. We're gonna rent out his slip. Now Ken comes back and there's somebody in his slip. Where's Ken gonna go? South Harbor's full. You're gonna take somebody else's slip in the North Harbor. That's the first thing you're gonna do. I mean, that's what I would do, right? I think the way the bylaw is written right now, if you sublet out your slip, you cannot come back to your slip. So say you say, I'm gone for 2 weeks, rent out my slip. You cannot come back to your slip. I believe that's the way the bylaw is written right now.
I don't recall it being in there, but it's all fair comment. Can you I have heard the opposite. I have heard that the office does not put any transients in North Harbor.
There's the transits in the North Harbor. 100%. I've seen them on sea dock, bigger boats. 100%.
Oh, on the north side of Sea Dock.
North side of sea dock.
They might, that part could.
I've seen them 4 years in a row. I've seen boats in there. This year I've seen them where Naughty Gal was at least 2-3 times.
Yeah, okay, on the north side of Sea Dock, but I don't know any individual slips.
No individual slips, not to my knowledge,
Right,
but I know on sea dock they have it. So yeah, I think it's already there. I think that what you have to watch though, if we want to try and look at this, and I think, believe me, it's a great revenue generator. We can charge more if people don't want to wrap, you know, I think it would be great. But it's gonna take some organization, 100% organization.
So Rob, what you're recommending is it needs to be well organized.
This has to be well organized, you know, and the other thing that being the devil's advocate is you have to vet the people. You got Jim coming in, he's got, you know, an okay boat, but doesn't know how to manage it. Now he rounds into Fraser's boat. But he doesn't want, there's nobody over there, so he says, oh, it's just a little bump, I'm not gonna say anything. Right, so.
That's the downside.
Okay, so we got Jim next.
Just wanted to clarify what, because between, what this proposal is and what a sublease is there apples and oranges. Just for clarification, you might be able to help us out here. Sublease has to be with a minimum of 1 month.
I can't recall, I didn't think.
I believe I've done a sublease in the North Harbor. I did that sublease.
Yeah.
Right now, it's a.
So- Yeah, so it's a little bit different animal than what Ken's proposing here. This would be kind of an unofficial sub, you could call it an unofficial sublet, but
Transunion rates and not the harbor rates.
Ken, you had your hand up, or did you have anything else you wanted to add at this point?
No, I think I've been able to.
Jerry, go right ahead.
So a couple of things. One is, I think it's a good idea and that we should leave it with Cam to think about and look, that we don't need to do a motion to send to council. Two, I simply got to bring this forward. The idea that if we find new revenue sources, somehow that's going to prevent the rates in North Harbor or South Harbor from going up is kind of ill-founded. Let's do a little thought experiments really quick. If the city decides it needs more money, which it needs more money for taxes, if it decides to do that, and it can raise more money and it decides it's willing to go through the effort to raise more money from mortgage rates from us, and they make that decision. If you find another source of revenue for them, they're simply going to say thank you and take both. Finding a new source of revenue is not going to decrease the city's need to, if they decide they want to take taxes. What will do that is us talking about fairness and being enforced to do this. The whole financial picture that somehow we're gonna find a new source of revenue, it's gonna stop the city from looking for places to get more to defer taxes simply is wrong. There are other mechanisms that are gonna work, not finding more revenue. This is a good idea.
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Yeah, go ahead and then Berkshire.
And, I think even if, there were great assurances made that by doing this, we're gonna moderate, future harbor, or future merge fee increases, it'd be pretty hard to draw a direct correlation between where merge rates settle next time they come up. But it would make it a little more difficult. Right now, the North Harbor is generating a very significant profit for the city. If we do this, that profit will make, maybe best case scenario would be double. It would make it more difficult to overly burden, harbor users of modest means to put more money into the city. And a big tax loss, from the mill. There's no white knight. It's not going to be made up in 2 or 3 or 4 new taxpayers. It's going to be made up in small chunks of change here and there. So
Are you willing to withdraw the motion and just have Cam look at this and think about it?
Sure. I mean, I get in here fully prepared to. I think I acknowledge at the outset this doesn't have to go to council. It's it's in the bylaw now. It can be done. But I would like some indication of what's going to happen next and over what time frame. And when I talked about a working group, I think people see working group and they get alarmed. I think what I meant by that is that they know that staff are extremely busy. I could spend an hour with Cam, and I could go away and write this in proper format and bringing my background to it. I was going to ask you about technical questions, and we'd be that much further ahead. It'd be a working group of me, say, working with Cam as a pro bono consultant.
And perhaps the working group. Bridget.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Just being down there now, it's not a rock solid number, but I probably count between 40 and 50 vacant slips throughout the winter in the north. Where those boats are, Jacksonville, there's other places I don't know. I don't think you could fill all 50 slips tomorrow, but I think you'd have a good chance of filling half of those. With various people, you had out of town temporary mortgage, if you had, south people in the south right now, it's fairly full. People with the option to pay a little bit more and be in the north, it would just give them an opportunity to have a little bit safer mortgage. And I think some people would be willing to absorb those extra costs to do so for the winter and then back to Westview. When it's back to voting season, that person wants their slip back. But it's a fair number of slips. If you look down there now, it's a surprising number of slips. You wouldn't get 100% turnover from those spots, but if you're able to offer that as an opportunity for people in South and Westview, I think it'd be a nice little extra bit of revenue throughout the winter. That doesn't require nearly as much work. This is more on a sublet basis, less on a transient mortgage basis. But I think you'd be able to make a lot of people happy over the winter. I think that it would boost revenues as well. That's now 1.5 times revenue per slip. So
So where are the boats to fill those slips in the winter coming from, off the wait list?
no, well, so if you got to the wait list, it could be because I have been asked if I wanted to move from south to pick up a sublet. Had a good spot, it wasn't worth taking the sublet for an added cost for a month or two. But if you knew that somebody was out for a period of time and it wasn't their prerogative to hold on to their slip, I have a boat owner and I don't know what his history is right now. His boat is on Quadra Island, I know that for a fact. He has not offered his slip as a sublet. And I don't know if that's because he doesn't know, or I don't know if that's because he doesn't know when he's coming back. But it's been vacant for about 6 months now. 6 months of missed opportunity, whether it's making somebody happy in the south, who's going to pay a little bit more to come in and pay North Harbour rate in that spot, or in peak season when that same thing is happening, he still wants to retain his slip just in case he ever wants to use it one day, so he doesn't want to give it up. Well, now it's the city's prerogative to say, this is the slip we're using for transient. You tell us when you're coming back, and you're not making double money on the same slip. It seems like a fairly obvious thing.
So we'll have your hand up next, Jesse.
On that note, just kind of sort of more for Cam, just for like, no. When those, on the freighters, when those slips are empty, from a service provider's point of view, you know, there's clientele in the lower mainland and Vancouver Island that would bring their boat to Powell River at the end of October and leave them here till January, if they knew they could get temporary mortgage to get work done in the city of Powell River by people in Powell River. But again, they don't know because it's not advertised, right? It's just little things.
Trust me. Pretty good.
Another thing, we can think if there was an availability of mortgage or a higher turnover, something that would benefit myself, probably a couple other of us who are service providers here in town, is that ability to bring people from out of town in, whether that's like a commercial rate or whether that's something that, you know, you have to be able to move around. But if the sublets weren't the decision of the slip owner and it was a decision of the city, it would be easier to get mortgage, let's say for 2 weeks to bring a client in, service their boat. It brings money into the local economy. So we benefit. I spend my money in town. It spreads out. It's an economic ripple effect. But that money directly coming from out of town was not here before, and it's entering our town for 2 weeks. A 1 month refit is a really good project to have, and it brings that avenue in. We have moored in a safer marina behind the lock gate. It makes a lot of boat owners feel safer and happier about that. Dedicated power poles, so they're not going powerless if they have to wrap up or they're not too close enough to the power box. And at that stage, it really gives a first impression for making Powell River not just a destination for like summer tourism activities, but a destination for service. My electrical expertise, Jeff's mechanical expertise is very high in the PC boating world. People seek me out for different types of problems. To be able to say, come to our community, we can sublet you a spot. It's got all the things you're going to look for in a standard high quality marina. And then that economic activity enters and has a ripple effect. I think that's a really big benefit to potentially that short-term mortgage problem.
Sounds like a good plan. So Ken, would you like, Jim, do you have a comment?
Just want to add a little clarity because we have new members like Peter and Sundance, for example, and folks in the gallery. When they talk about a vacant slip, I'm pretty confident in saying that slip is already occupied by a contract holder. So it's essentially the harbor is full, it's near capacity a lot of time. These are just somebody who's taking their boat out on vacation for a refit or new engine, et cetera. Right, so just to add a little clarity.
Just like to make sure we're talking sort of two different things here too, but the long-term sublets for various reasons, the short-term transits. I would hope that during cruising season, all available slips, if there's demand, will be reserved for transients at $2 a foot, or whatever it is, as opposed to $6 or $8 a month.
So Ken, are you, ready? Last comment?
So I got one more question. It's just regarding the report feedback regarding the online payment system. It wasn't compatible with the software because of a reservations issue or something, so.
Yeah, I can't quite remember the details.
Yeah, it just.
But yeah, there was an issue with, basically, the software that we used. Reservation form just wasn't working for us.
Okay, yeah.
For us, so,
And that doesn't work in, I'm assuming, South and Westview,
Yeah.
but would it potentially work in?
I would have to look into that, yeah. Again, I have to chat with, so just one comment I'm gonna make, as far as looking at stuff like this. Right now, we're at a disadvantage, because we need to have our staff situation solidified, resolved, as far as who's gonna be working down there, so that is the thing that isn't happening right away, we're working on. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna let this alone, I want people to know day-to-day stuff to be able to comment and keep it around.
We aren't reinventing the wheel or doing anything new here. I would say the majority of them arenas do this on an ongoing basis, and they do it for the money.
Do you know anything about, is there any update on staff? It's just a temporary working group for now.
Not yet, it's temporary right
Yeah,
now, but it's, yeah, we're actively looking to get that filled, it's just. Short list and all that being developed by HR, so, yeah, it's a slow process.
So I just have one question on your report, Ken, and that is, Fraser might know this from one of you. The temporary fob situation, is that difficult to set up or is that relatively easy?
I asked Jen about that last summer. She said that she can code in whatever dates she wants to.
The previous system was a general program fob, all fobs have the same program. And anybody can get in, they're all the same fobs. Now they're individually programmed, so if you take a fob, put your $50 deposit for the night, and then you leave without coming back and get it, deactivate that number, and they can't return it to the
And
dock.
you have to go and visit the working period for the extra money.
Yeah, right, they keep your $50 and you can't get it, so.
Excellent. Okay, so Ken, you put this forward, you want to make a
Well,
motion, or you
yeah,
just want to have this left to deal with down the road?
Well, not just left. Can we get some indication of what will happen, what Cam's view is on what should happen next? And
Like I said, I want to get staff in place so that I can have a good conversation.
right,
And really take it around.
right.
I'll
Okay.
timeline for that. I'm sure, hopefully within the next couple of weeks,
Oh, excellent. Now to do all
have
that.
that kind of solidified.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be some training, whatever we're gonna do with that, but yeah, the next couple of months.
So I think, yeah, I know you guys all have lots in place, but this is something you can sort of prioritize and let's make some kind of effort. In those areas. Okay, nice thinking. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so that kind of wraps up that discussion. So we have some unfinished business. Next item is 6.1, result of the satisfaction survey for local harbor users. Does anybody want to speak to that?
I can open it up.
Jim, go right ahead.
We've been sitting on this data now for a couple of months, and hopefully we've got a little bit of time to look at it and chew on it, and sort of have things jump off the page. I think development. I'm wondering what the group thinks. Do we need to address this on an individual case basis? Do you want to set up a little group where we can these things? Cipher what some of these comments mean even, so, but there is one that sort of jumps out of my mind, and it's the wait list. And the wait list being, where I'm getting at is, when the city got the funding for approval, you may recall, you were probably on council at the time, but they used a process called a reverse referendum. And that's to get the boarding approval to do that. What that did was it guaranteed the loan by the city taxpayer. Although there's been no, taxpayers have not been putting any money into the North Dakota project whatsoever. And okay, they never have to, but I'm almost thinking that a good way to, give the city taxpayers a leg up. The Harbour user, if we could have a notification on the wait list that they've already in fact the city property owner, they live in Fall River, or they're from elsewhere. And I don't even know if it's relevant to include the regional difference in it, on that or not. City taxpayers and anybody else. So it's kind of difficult. I know when I was down there, it's difficult to face a guy in a grocery store and an auto parts store, and you've been waiting for a slip for 3 years, 5 years, etc. And some guy from the 9 all of a sudden got a spot. So I kind of got behind the scenes advice from the mayor back in the day, and from councilors back in the day, and from senior staff back in the day. Like, ask our people first. But it was unwritten. Just wondering if that's something that we want to chew over, or.
That sounds like a hot potato. to me.
So this is an open meeting, right? So can you expand on that a little bit more and tell us exactly how that works? Please, yeah, I'd like to hear it. Come on, let's get into it.
I don't think.
No, you should, actually, I'd like to hear more about it.
That's it, especially on this one you brought up.
Oh, I'd like to hear more about how things used to work around here at this meeting. I do, well, you just said that you were sort of given an official, like, look after locals as opposed to not.
We didn't have to work your way to the top of the wait list for a 40-foot slip is enormous. You know, it can be anywhere from, we exhausted the old wait list when we built a new harbor, but now it's growing again.
But how did things used to work?
We maintained the wait list, but it can't be made public through freedom of information. You just can't do that, right? So the Workinger or City Hall has a copy of the wait list. Thanks for putting me on the spot, but.
I'm just trying to illustrate the realities of what we're dealing with as a committee, so
Right.
just for clarity, right?
Okay.
So, because we kind of forget that this is going on, but we gotta be careful.
Oh, fair enough, but you've got a guy in
Conversation.
Nanaimo or Vancouver that is finally at the top of the wait list. Is it fair to give it to him? Or do you give it to the guy that you know lives down the street and he lives there for,
What do the rules say?
there's nothing. That's what I'm telling you about a competition.
So the bylaws don't stipulate.
In
or out of town or anything like that.
Based on seniority,
It's based on seniority on the wait list, and I think that's how it always worked.
but it should go, but people that responded to this survey feel that they should get a leg up on it.
Okay,
And
well,
that's,
that's the point you're making.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you said that.
you probably hadn't read that.
Hadn't read what? The report?
Yeah, all those ones that are highlighted in there. Yeah, and if they're asking, I mean, some of them are asking for a preferential rate, but that's probably not the case, so we know that. But
Okay, I think after, I think you pointed out the issue.
My
Go
only
ahead.
thought behind that component kind of, is highlighted in the report and the component of addressing it is, we had an issue with pilings a few years ago, pretty close to call. Now we've got things on them to ensure the longevity of our marina. If something, anything, climate change, changing water levels, anything like that throws us for a loop in our marina, things need to be done to maintain it. Taxpayers are more or less on the hook for that at some stage, I would assume. And if taxpayers are the ones who are on the hook for that, does that not provide preserving the marina for the people who are ensuring its well-being in the future?
I believe that would be the case. Oh, I don't. Are you looking for anything else?
No, that's it. That's it. Just sort of highlight that thought on that issue. One thing that I had with the report is I was looking for some comments that I made that were very specific, and I read through the survey and I have not found my comments.
maybe they're blacked out.
And that was the only thing. There's a couple blacked out, and I didn't make them so bad that I thought they need to be blacked out, but I haven't found my.
Well, you're lucky you're on the committee. You can bring them up. Okay, so, is there anything, any direction on the survey that anybody wants to provide, or we need to deal with the survey, and I think take note of some of the things that people are asking for. I'm not sure how that gets done by the committee, but maybe somebody's got some ideas.
Well, I stepped up for a bit, and I think you were talking about the responses dealing with, well, sort of. Yeah, preferential treatment for local people, maybe preferential rates for local people, I don't know. I mean, I think that's part of the discussion. Talk about generating more money from, well, Harbours, back in 2022, when the new rates were put before council the first time, there were tiered rates. One rate for people living in Powell River, a second rate for people living in the regional district, and a third rate for people living outside of the area, period. That was a little bit contentious, especially for those people living in the regional district. They thought they shouldn't be paying any more than people living in Powell River. Anybody paying, if they're living in Powell River and paying Powell River taxes, thinks that they should be getting a preferential rate. But it came out of the proposal that council actually approved in the fall time based, I recall, staff reporting on legal advice. But I think preferential rates are something that should be looked at again as another revenue generating possibility. That's the only recommendation. If anybody remembers the Community Finance Advisory Committee back in 2021, I think, the only recommendation in their report pertaining to Harbours was that they introduced tiered rates based on place of residence. And anyway, that hasn't gone any place yet, but there's thoughts about that among Harbour users.
Yeah, I'm just gonna speak that from a council perspective. When that came to the table, there's a lot of discussion about residents, regional district, residents, and out of town. And at the end of the day, through discussion from council, they wanted to sent back to staff to come forward and see if not a 3-tier system, but 2-tier for local residents, whether you're in the regional district or the city, and a higher rate for out of town voters.
Okay.
So that came back from staff, and we don't have anybody on the finance thing here, but there was a specific reason why there was no further discussion on that. And if I rack my brain, it has something to do with not being able to treat voters categories. Anything to that effect.
Once the Harbour was operating on a profit basis, they have to treat everybody the same. I think it was how it was described. Okay. But get a different lawyer, get the advice you want.
Just curious if we should take the opportunity as group members to maybe look at some things in the report and see what we can do to sort of make it a bit more concise, and then just present findings that are some statistics and things that might come out of there, because there's probably some keywords that keep popping up. There's a few things that we're going to get back. Then it's a more focused approach maybe for the next meeting to be able to present those findings and get a better handle on them.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion to that effect and designate a couple of committee members?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it. I can organize something. I mean,
You want to help Fraser work on survey? Anybody, any other committee members want to help Fraser go through the survey? Okay, so we've got 3: Fraser, Jim, Rob. We should make a motion to that effect, designating you 3. Ken, go ahead and make it.
Sure. I'm looking to establish a working group of these 3 individuals to rework the report to make it more understandable and bring it back.
Got that, gotcha. We've got Fraser, Jim, and Rob.
Does it need a motion?
Yeah, we need a second here. Seconded by Jim. Any comment, concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, we've got that taken care of. So last item. Got 20 minutes. Item 6.2, Powell River Harbours report. Committee members. Josh, do you want to start the discussion on where we might want to go with it?
Since I was the one who kind of finally drafted this up and put it all together, it's nice, staff has made numerous comments on the different sections and portions of this. There's probably a few in here that some people and myself want a little more discussion on and a little more clarity maybe. Does anybody have anything particular in here that they want clarity on? One that pops up to me was it's in this report about the fish cleaning station in the North Harbor, and I know that previously Rob was working on that, and then at a meeting, it was just dead in the water. And there was, I didn't catch any discussion on how or why.
Yeah, so there are a number of items in that report. So I think what we should do is also have a couple of committee members team up with Sasha, go through the report, jot down all the various operational items for future discussion. You don't have to do any work in terms of prioritizing, but we need to identify them. And then bring it forward to put some meat on the bone. Prison?
We're just curious, does this report, I didn't see, has it been updated in the sense of the condemned parking wharf for Westview Harbor?
I have not updated this, so
Okay.
it's. And that would be, I guess, a topic of discussion. As far as I know, there are plans to do a temporary repair
Yeah,
in the works. To at least get us access back to our crane. And as far as I know, Smallcraft is working on a larger program to do the full repairs. In a more timely.
okay, yeah. Cause it's a fairly big change, but obviously doesn't necessarily require us to do the report again, but it's definitely like a big addition to,
Yeah. Like I said, as far as I know, there are some plans in progress.
yeah.
For some repairs. For
We're
temporary
very small
repairs.
to do, hopefully, I think within the next month or two.
Okay, wow.
We don't know what the actual load rating would be after that. We do some repairs on, I forget, I think, 3 or 4 pilings, I think. Reassess, get it so it's functional,
Yeah,
and then longer term, we're gonna be.
excellent.
In Lund, that plan is to put it back to a 5-ton truckload rating.
Yeah, I didn't get that commitment.
Yeah, I know.
But they were asking, what's their typical vehicles? Well, yeah, kind of
Something like that,
yeah, you don't see a lot bigger than that usually, but.
like a cube van type of thing.
Yeah, I bet that. Do you have a timeline for that?
Formal yet, right now we're working with small craft drivers to make it happen in the next couple of months.
Don't see any other hands in the air, but. That platform. That is a priority for the upcoming prawn season. We'll talk about that. There's a number of items in there. I'm gonna ask Sundance this question. Because most of the items that are brought forward in this report are of an operational nature. Can we somehow not have a formal meeting of this group called the advisory committee, representative council, but as a working group, have all 9 members meet with Tam and the board manager to go through this report and work on those operational issues, or at least list them. No, we cannot do that.
We're trying to have our cake and eat it too,
Yeah, we are.
right?
We are.
And no, we can't actually. If it was the other way around, we could, and the terms of reference for this committee doesn't include the work of your office.
And
I would think that, if you're talking about a prioritized list or something on the to-do list, Sasha and Hannah consider, like, I wouldn't need, even if we had the option of, all the items and with, Hannah to go over it, I wouldn't bother, I wouldn't have anything to bring to that discussion that almost anybody else here wouldn't bother to bring. So.
I think having the group come up with some sort of priority makes sense, and discussing it at this meeting makes sense. But again, I don't think that we can use this group and start creating all these like subcommittees and stuff. I don't think that's a good structure for it, but there's no reason we can't utilize this group to try and have that conversation.
yeah, so that is the dilemma that we've created here.
Yeah.
That is the dilemma. We cannot bring the work material to the table.
Working off the report is us trying to produce a list of some of the issues we want to track, and then we can talk each meeting about how it's happening, whether there's new issues we want to bring up. It makes sense in that priority. It makes sense to get information from Cam that says, how are we doing on those, like the ladders and things like that, so we can track it. What's happening with your thinking on the North Harbor. So I mean, it makes sense for us to have a list of things that we want to talk about monthly.
So somebody mentioned Sasha meeting with Cam. Cam, are you open to meeting with Sasha on this one?
Don't say yes if you don't want to know what.
Because I'm not clear, like, if Sasha was just to come to me with a list of things on his own, absolutely, I'm gonna meet with him, right? But because of the structure of this committee. And it's driven by that, I'm not sure they can, right, like, that's honestly the way it is, I feel like I'm kind of handcuffed. I've met with others of different times, I have no problem with that. Especially when it's not something that's on the table here at this committee, so.
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
I get that. If we're clear on where we want to take this. I don't think it would be that big a job based on Pam's notes to take this away and do another iteration. Something I would prioritize, maybe you got 3 categories, rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, whatever. And just identify different items that need attention in a concise format. And bring it back to the committee, and then it can, the committee can just forward it to Cam informally for its reference, and perhaps follow-up reports back to the committee on whatever progress has been made.
Yeah, I mean, through the chair, I don't think there's an issue with, updates and all that through the committee. I would kind of caution about the committee trying to set priorities for operational work. And actually, hey, this is the most important, I mean, that's the conversation to have, but as far as giving marching orders, I don't think so.
I was thinking the priorities would be established by your comments, actually.
Sure, and I mean, those are all comments now too.
And again, the current terms of reference says the committee serves as an advisory group with suggestions and advice referred to council as recommendations for consideration. I mean, if we're gonna keep this committee needs to follow the rules, so it'll go to council.
Why?
That's how it's structured.
We have, ever since we started, some items this committee has brought to the table have been sort of earmarked to go to council. I think the one actually made it. Others have just been, accepted by staff.
I'm just reading the terms of reference. The committee serves as an advisory group with suggestions and advice referred to council as recommendations for consideration. All management and operations of the harbors are the responsibility of city staff. The committee has no delegated authority to oversee or direct harbor staff. So
Reference, we just voted down, right?
no,
Okay.
these are your terms of reference.
Okay.
Just so you're clear. So the expectation is that we're going to follow the terms of reference.
So then, for example, my proposal here to open North Harbor transient mortgage can't be dealt with at the staff level. We have to go to council.
I would say that if you're following the terms of reference, you probably should go to council.
Yeah, but we have to follow them that rigorously, and if so, why?
It's
It's
legal.
counterproductive.
There are legal responsibilities here in terms of how the city runs.
Well, you know what, I would want to get that from a lawyer, to be honest, it sounds shaky to me. But even if we are precluded from submitting any recommendations, or our staff is precluded from saying, hey, that's a good idea, I think we should do that. Let's then go to council with a much more simple proposal and ask them to add one more bullet to our existing terms of reference to allow us to work with staff on that basis.
We're off the point. I may point out that you're talking about something else.
we've got an item on the table, and so the suggestion that I'm hearing was made is to have somebody work with Sasha to refine the report. Bring items forward for consideration. Yes, Terry.
I think we should put on the agenda for the next meeting for us to talk about the issues and try to not create a priority that's a work order priority, but the thing that says, what do we think are the most important things there, which is not saying what to do in what order, but we can talk about what are we think from our perspective, what the most important thing. I think we should do it as a whole group, as a subgroup.
Was there any volunteers to work with Sasha on bringing something forward to the next meeting?
Just suggested we work it as a group, not as a subgroup.
Oh, as a committee as a whole? Okay, so we'll bring it to the next meeting for consideration. And it'll be on the docket for consideration, so give it some thought before, I guess, February now. And we will go forward from there. So, I don't see anything else on tonight's agenda. I don't think we didn't have any other additional items. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We're going to open it up for questions at this point. First of all, we'll go to the gallery and then we'll go to the screen if there's anyone on the screen.
I have a couple questions that I made, but
Uh,
I thought this was also open for any miscellaneous questions. from
yeah,
the-
we'll hold off on yours. You've spoken enough, but first of all, the gallery. We have a councilman in the gallery. Councilor, do you have any comments on tonight's comments?
No, thank you, Chair.
That's you. Anybody else? Hearing none, let's go to the screen. Is there anybody on the screen that would like to ask a question? Not seeing any. One more time, anybody want to ask a question on the screen? And the last time, any questions? We'll go back to Ken. Go right ahead, Ken.
Yeah, thanks. I was going through the appendix on the 5-year plan, and there's a couple of items in here pertaining to the harbor. A couple of them are new. This is South Harbour, Harbor Structural Assessment.
Are we adding new things to the agenda?
Just wondering what sort.
Are we adding new things to the agenda?
This is a question period.
There's questions.
Questions from the questions from us?
That's questions. We're gonna listen. To make it specific.
No discussion items. It's just a very simple, well, I think it's a very simple one.
I'm gonna answer, I guess. If I'm allowed. So yeah, we're looking for, and it's a request funds, purely just structural assessments, for South Harbor. Yeah, just kind of areas, just to be able to start doing routine, regular, every year assessments.
My name's Docs. I do a assessment area. Yeah. You're in north?
Pardon me?
Same in north?
Yeah, I believe that's.
Okay, yeah, that's all I was looking for. And then I also noted there, this is a carryover of North Harbor Water System improvements. $30,000. Is that the cross plug business that's been causing problems?
Yeah, I mean, we recognize that the system's not fantastic shape. It has some issues.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to make some repairs, some meaningful repairs.
So it didn't happen before, no, even though it was on the budget. Do you think it'll happen this year?
I'm hopeful.
Okay, thank you.
Not hearing any further questions, seeing any hands in the air, we'll call for move for adjournment, moved by Rob, seconded by Jim. Favor? We are adjourned at 8:24. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
We didn't talk about next meeting, Jim.
Oh, yes, the next meeting will be.